Why did he change his name? Let's let him answer.
Why don't you like to be called Clay anymore?
No, Clay was not my name. Once we follow believe, hear, understand the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and come into knowledge of ourselves, then we want to be called after names of our people, which are names that fit us black people. And Clay was a white man's name. It was a slave name. And I'm no longer Clay. I'm no longer a slave. So now I'm Muhammad Ali.
So, Clay was a white man's name, but Muhammad and Ali were names for his people.
We want to be called after names of our people.
What people would that be? Arab slave masters? Because that's who Muhammad and his son-in-law Ali were, according to Muslim sources. And let's not forget that Arabs can exhibit a variety of shades and tones. Here's an example of an Arab. Looking at this picture, you may be wondering, did Opie Taylor grow up and convert to Islam? No, this is Sheikh Muhammad al-Yaqubi, the 34th grandson of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. This guy's so white, he tried to buy Go-Gurts at Whole Foods. And this is exactly what we would expect based on descriptions of Muhammad in Islam's most trusted sources. Sahih al-Bukhari, number 63. Narrated Anas bin Malik. While we were sitting with the Prophet in the mosque, a man came riding on a camel. He made his camel kneel down in the mosque, tied its foreleg, and then said, "Who amongst you is Muhammad?" At that time, the Prophet was sitting amongst us, leaning on his arm. We replied, "This white man," reclining on his arm.
Clay was a white man's name.
Sahih Muslim, number 6081. It was narrated that Abu Juhayfa said, "I saw the Messenger of Allah with a white complexion and some white hairs."
Clay was a white man's name.
Sahih Muslim, 6071. It was narrated from Al-Jurairi from Abu At-Tufail. I said to him, "Did you see the Messenger of Allah?" He said, "Yes, he was white, with an elegant face."
Clay was a white man's name.
The Muslim sources go on and on about Muhammad's epic whiteness, telling us about the whiteness of his shins, and the whiteness of his thigh, and the whiteness of his leg, and the whiteness of his stomach, and the whiteness of his forearms, and the whiteness of his armpits, and the whiteness of his cheeks. I hope everyone brought soup, because I just found the world's biggest cracker.
We want to be called after names of our people.
White people?
Clay was a white man's name.
Muhammad was a white man's name. He was the whitest prophet in history. Now, how many Muhammads would it take to screw in a light bulb? None. He would just tell one of his more than 36 slaves to do it. Let's read about some of these slaves. Sahih al-Bukhari, number 7263. Narrated Umar. I went to the house of the Prophet, and behold, Allah's messenger was staying in a mashraba, and a black slave of Allah's messenger was at the top of its stairs. I said to him, "Tell the Prophet that here is Umar bin al-Khattab." Then he admitted me. Sahih al-Bukhari, 6161. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Allah's messenger was on a journey, and he had a black slave called Anjasha, and he was driving the camels very fast, and there were women riding on those camels. Allah's messenger said, "Waihaka, O Anjasha, drive slowly the camels with the glass vessels," i.e., the women. Sunan an-Nasai, number 4625. It was narrated that Jabir said, "A slave came and gave his pledge to the Messenger of Allah to emigrate, and the Prophet did not realize that he was a slave. Then his master came looking for him. The Prophet said, 'Sell him to me.' So he bought him for 2 black slaves. Then he did not accept the pledge of anyone after that until he had asked, 'Is he a slave?' So an Arab man walked up to Muhammad and said, 'I'd like to join you. Do you accept my pledge?' Muhammad replied, 'Yes.' But the man turned out to be a slave, so Muhammad had to buy the slave from his master. And what did he buy him with? He bought him with 2 of his numerous black slaves. Apparently, black slaves were only half as valuable as Arab slaves. Of course, Muhammad didn't want to keep giving up his black slaves, so he decided to be more careful about taking the pledge. Notice, by the way, how black slaves are described in Islam's most trusted sources. Trading slaves is equivalent to trading animals. Here's one about a black slave who was shot to death while unloading Muhammad's luggage. Sunan an-Nasa'i, 3858. It was narrated that Abu Hurairah said, "We were with the Messenger of Allah in the year of Khaybar, and we did not get any spoils of war except for wealth, goods, and clothes. Then a man from Banu ad-Dubayb, who was called Rifa bin Zayd, gave the Messenger of Allah a black slave who was called Middam. The Messenger of Allah set out for Wadi al-Qura. When we were in Wadi al-Qura, while Middam was unloading the luggage of the Messenger of Allah, an arrow came and killed him. The people said, 'Congratulations, you will go to paradise.' But the Messenger of Allah said, 'No, by the one in whose hand is my soul, the cloak that he took from the spoils of war on the day of Khaybar is burning him with fire.' So Middam, one of Muhammad's many black slaves, grabbed a cloak before the spoils were divided after the Battle of Khaybar, and that earned him a one-way trip to hell. Hence, according to Muhammad, if you take something from the spoils of war before the spoils have been divided, you're going to hell, right?